Thank you, Mr. Weber. I will now recognize Mr. Posey for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank the ranking member and the chair for inviting me to participate here today. I live upon the Atlantic shores of the Florida Peninsula. My constituents understand in a very deep way the economic and environmental importance of our oceans. We also have an estuary. It's one of those special places, as you all know, where the rivers meet the seas. And ours is named the Indian River Lagoon, and it has been identified as the most diverse estuary in the country. This is one of the important reasons that I co-founded the Congressional Estuary Caucus with Chairwoman Bonamici, and we have rechartered the caucus again for this session. I also want to thank the panel, obviously, for showing up and say a special hello to Dr. Frazier from our University of Florida. In addition, I want to acknowledge the work of the Florida Institute of Technology on the ocean and estuary issues. And I have received a statement from Dr. Robert Weaver, Director of Indian River Lagoon Research at FIT, on matters we're discussing today, and I ask unanimous consent to have that entered into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. I'm also proud to be a co-sponsor of the National Estuary Acidification Research Act. The bill has the objective of focusing acidification research on the impacts of our estuaries as well. Also pleased to be a co-sponsor of the Coastal and Ocean Acidification Stressors and Threats Research Act, and y'all are familiar with that as well. I won't describe that for the record. I just make those points leading up to the questions that are very vital to all of us in this committee and every single one of my constituents, and that is how we solve the problems that we have. And, you know, first and foremost, we talk about our estuary, and I've always said that the answer is very simple. It's 2 steps. 1, stop putting bad stuff in it, and 2, start removing the bad stuff that's already there. Now, a lot of people are offended by that, but that's the top line. It only gets confusing when you start delving into the details of how to do that. There's so many different options to do it, and it's one of those cases where it seems everybody in the room knows how to make a baby stop crying, except the person holding it. And it's very hard to get a consensus on the order and the way to do it. There's so many variable solutions. You know, I'm guessing there's over 100. We could probably list 100 different solutions. And I just wonder if there's ever been any research that would quantify all the different potential solutions for cleaning it up, and you know, the cost roughly per the benefit, the amount of clean water in each of those. If any of you are aware of any research on that or a source, I would really like to have or your comments on it, generally speaking. Start, Dr. Cooley.
Thank you, and thank you for your leadership on the NEAR Act as well. That solutions or assessment of the solutions that we have is critically needed. Having been participating in the National Climate Assessment, I'm a big believer in the process of scientific assessment where all of the information is gathered and assessed as one to look at risks and likelihoods. We have much fewer research studies looking at the impacts of solutions, partly because they take a long time to apply and then even longer to measure how well they're doing. But I think that is a key knowledge gap that this committee can turn to and begin to address.
Doctor.
Very quickly, I'd second that. Evaluating adaptation strategies, but all in the context of a changing climate, but also the nuts and bolts of implementation, right? Working with the existing agencies, the existing funding cycles, bringing all that together to come up with solutions that work for all.
Okay. Dr. Frazier.
Thank you. I would agree with you. The problem's complex, right? And there's certainly lots of issues that we have to consider simultaneously. With regard to the issue in your own backyard, I would point you to the TMDL process, and what that is the total maximum daily loads, and that incorporates input from all of the stakeholders and people that might be involved in a way to identify what are the sources of pollutants into the estuary, and how can they collectively reduce those inputs.
I agree. We need to be working towards solution, and in the process of doing that, we need to really keep this communication and the collaboration open and engaged and robust. We've learned quite a bit from our experience in the Northwest. We have valuable information exchange, and one of the things that I think is most important that has happened and most exciting is that we've got non-scientists thinking about science, and we've got non-farmers thinking about farming. Yeah. And that there is got a wonderful opportunity for all of us.
Well, another moment. You know,
Sure.
if somewhere there could just be, say, given a certain level of pollution, you know, or certain measurements that you've taken, and here is a list of every single thing from oyster beds to oxygenating to on down the list, and then, you know, here's the cost of cleaning up 10 gallons of that water with this method and that method, just as a baseline, so that, you know, there's just not such a food fight over evaluating the different methods, that somewhere there's a legitimate method of determining in economic return or priority which of these is most effective. So anyway, I hope somebody will start that research sometime. I'd be glad to help you pursue it and beat on doors and raise money.